Hi, and welcome to Part 6 of Spacebound by Tom Fletcher, continuing from track 25, There Is a Way. So this is Megavolt's trophy room, I said, looking around the house of booze at the thousands of cages, each one detaining a band from a planet that had been destroyed. Yes, this is where we live now. Even if we weren't trapped in this place, we have no planet to return to. We're stranded, Mott said sadly. And your child managed to escape Tanalp before it was destroyed? I asked. Yes, Anavoig said with a slight smile. How do you know? Bash asked. The two aliens looked at each other with love in their twinkling green eyes. We just know. We can feel it, they said. Whoa, that's cool. I wish I had that power. Then I'd be able to feel when my mum and dad are coming upstairs to check on me when I'm drumming on my pillow instead of going to bed, Bash said. Now, I'm no hero, but looking at these poor planetless aliens who had lost their kid made me want to do something. When we defeat Megavolt and win this battle, I promise we'll set you free and help you find your family, I said. Anavoig and Mott smiled. Ah, so you're a band too? Mott asked. Yes, we're the Earthlings. We're here to save planet Earth, Armstrong told them proudly. But as he said that, I remembered what Mott had said about Megavolt only beaming up the worst bands from around the universe. I remembered what Dave had told me at the very start of the contest too, that no one had ever beaten Megavolt. If everything you've said is true, then it's all a fix. It's always a fix. We'll never win. No one will, I realised. Correct, Earthling. Every one of us in here represents the very worst music from our home planets, Anavoig said. It's true, we're awful on our planet, said the pink-furred lead singer of the furry Wurzlets from a cage above. Same here, we totally suck, bubbled Slime Blob and Gloop. Affirmative, we are also the worst band on Corrodia, droned 8 tracks, and I saw that all the bands we'd seen knocked out of the competition were here in cages. Pixel Shift, Buxy, Michael Dublé, everyone, even our friends the pincers were here, gripping the bars of their cage with their giant claws and peering out at us sadly. But you're all awesome bands, Bash said. Not where we come from. Oh no, we are very bad indeed, Dave said, sighing. So we really are the worst band on planet Earth, I huffed, slumping to the floor and feeling totally defeated. After all that hard work in our garage, all the scribbled lyrics in this book of rock, it turns out we're just another rubbish band with a dream that will never come true. Finally, I understood all that booing. It was Megavolt's cruel reminder to everyone in here that they really were the worst bands in the universe. I'm sorry, young human, but it's impossible to win. Megavolt makes the rules. It's his show, Mott said. Megavolt is always the champion. Unless the legend is true, spoke a deep voice from the shadows of one of the cages above. It was Dark Matter, the mysterious opera-singing alien. What legend? Neela asked. Don't listen to them, Earthling friends. It's just a rumour, said Dave. My sensors suggest the legend is true, added 8 tracks. What legend? I demanded. There was a clatter of scattering feet and the sliver of tentacles as hundreds of aliens stepped up to the bars of their prisons to hear this mysterious legend told. Dark Matter emerged slowly from the darkness, their face bathed in the deep red glow of their laser prison. Legend has it that at the end of the universe, on the edge of the vast black hole, there is an object. Whoever discovers this object will be worthy of harnessing the power of unlimited musical potential, Dark Matter intoned. Unlimited musical potential? What does that even mean? I asked. It means that whoever finds that mythical object will be given the power to rock harder, faster and louder than anyone in the universe, Slime Blob and Gloop squelched. You would have the power of musical awesomeness, dude, added Stargirl. The power to defeat Megavolt once and for all, Dark Matter confirmed. But how do we get to the edge of a black hole at the end of the universe? Neela asked. You are already there, Dark Matter said. Spectra, I gasped, remembering the enormous black hole we could see from our dressing room window. Dark Matter nodded. So let's go and get this object, whatever it is, Bash said. Dave and the other pincers scoffed. It's impossible. First you would need to steal one of Megavolt's starships, which are kept locked inside the launch bay, said Beverly. We all slumped. Impossible. Wait, I've got a key that opens any door, Neela squeaked, pulling out Garble's glowing keycard. Yes, I cheered. Not so fast. You'd also need someone who knows how to pilot a starship, one of the furry Wurzlets said. We slumped again. Totally impossible. Me. Armstrong knows how to fly space rockets. Armstrong trained for years, Armstrong shrieked, leaping around excitedly and pointing at his astronaut suit. Excited whispers hissed all around the house of booze as the defeated aliens looked at each other. Could it be true? Could this be the band that finally defeats Megavolt? They'll never find it. This is what we've been waiting for. If this mysterious object exists, it could be our only shot at defeating Megavolt and saving our planet. We have a key. We have a pilot. What do you say, Earthlings? I said to my bandmates. Neela suddenly looked nervous, hiding her eyes behind her tuft of fringe. I don't know if I can do it, she said, trembling. Neela, if you have a chance to save Earth, you must give it everything you have, Anna Voig said. But what if I can't? What if I let the whole planet down? Neela sniffed. It is better to try and fail than to fail to try, Mott said, like some sort of wise alien wizard. It sounded a bit like something Max Riff might say, and I found myself nodding respectfully. My bandmates glanced at each other anxiously, but there was now a little twinkle in their eyes that wasn't there before, a twinkle of excitement, a twinkle of hope. All those in favour of stealing a starship, finding a mysterious object on the edge of a black hole, getting musical superpowers, and saving the world say, "Let's rock!" I said, and Bash and Neela and Armstrong replied together, "Let's rock!" Track 26. No time to lose. We said our goodbyes to the aliens in the House of Booze, darted back through the golden door and made our way through the shadows into the backstage world of the space stadium. This wasn't a competition anymore. It was a top-secret space mission to save the world. We weren't just a band. We were space warriors from Earth out to defeat Megavolt. "How do we find the launch bay?" I whispered. "Over there," Neela said, spotting a handy sign on the opposite side of the stadium that said, "Launch bay, this way." I've no idea how, but it seemed that the translation passes could even translate the signs for us. It was like magic. I looked at the symbols and somehow knew what they said. "Well, that was easy," Bash smiled. "Yeah, but if anyone sees us out of our dressing room, we'll be disqualified," I reminded my bandmates as we all hid behind a stack of empty flight cases. But now there were alien roadies at work all over the place, rolling equipment from one side of the stadium to the other and getting the venue ready for the final battle. "How are the Earthlings going to sneak all the way over there without being seen?" Armstrong asked, just as we had to duck for cover while a four-armed roadie heaved a heavy flight case past our shadowy hiding place. "I've got it. We do the Max Riff B-stage illusion," I said excitedly. "The Max Riff what stage illusion?" Neela said, screwing up her face. "When Max Riff plays live, he always has two stages. The main stage where he plays most of the show, and then a secret B stage right in the middle of the stadium." "Okay, so what's that got to do with us secretly getting to the launch bay over there?" Bash asked. "Well, Max Riff doesn't just casually walk to the B stage. He's a rock star, so he appears there as if he's been transported by rock magic," I explained. "Great. Just one problem, George. We don't have rock magic," Bash said. "No, but the Max Riff Backstage Tour documentary revealed how he really gets to the B stage." I grinned. "Any guesses?" "A secret tunnel under the stadium," Neela guessed. "Nope. He abseils down from the ceiling under a veil of darkness," Bash said. "Nope. All right, I'll tell you. It's so simple." I opened my book of rock and drew them this handy diagram. When the lights go black, Max Riff climbs inside an ordinary flight case, and his stage roadies wheel him through the crowd, right past his screaming fans, all the way to the B stage. There's always loads of equipment being wheeled around a stadium, so no one ever guesses that there's a superstar hiding inside, I explained, and I reached round and clicked open the latch of the flight case we were hiding behind. "So you want us to just climb inside the dark box?" Bash asked hesitantly. "Yep. But how do you know one of those roadies will wheel us to the launch bay? We could end up anywhere on the ship," Neela said. "Good point," I replied, ripping a page from my book of rock. I scribbled "Deliver to Launch Bay" on it and placed it on top of the flight case, where no roadie could fail to spot it. Then we all bundled inside and shut the door. "It's darker than a black hole in here," Bash said. "Ow, whose foot is that?" Neela asked. "Not mine," I replied. "You, what's that smell?" "Armstrong is sorry." Neela gagged. "Gross." I'm in space, trying to save the world, trapped in a dark box with a farting astronaut chimp. My life is so weird, Bash said, while pinching his nose. "Shh, someone's coming," I whispered. Outside I heard the footsteps of the four-armed roadie returning. I could hear him breathing outside, just inches away. "Launch bay," he grumbled, reading my note. Then, whoosh! We were off. The four of us secretly squished inside, desperately tried to stay silent as we were whizzed across the stadium. We spun and swayed, bumped and bashed, twisted and turned, all in total darkness like a really, really bad roller coaster. "I want to get off," Neela whispered. "I feel sick," Bash gulped. "Faster, whee!" laughed Armstrong, clearly enjoying the ride. "Shh, we're nearly there," I said, as the flight case started to slow down. "Here we go, launch bay," grumbled our roadie driver as we came to a halt and I listened to his heavy footsteps trudge away. "Armstrong, is that your bum again?" Bash whispered. "Sorry, Armstrong gets gassy when Armstrong's excited," the stinky ape confessed. Click! I opened the flight case lid and felt warm air that smelled like an ape's backside rush past as we all bundled out into a heap on the floor, right outside the launch bay door. Neela tapped Chef Garble's master key card on the pad, and the door swished open, revealing a giant hangar filled with row upon row of shimmering starships. Bash beamed. "This is the best day of my life." Armstrong scampered over to the nearest one, leapt up to the door and hit a large button, which made the door hiss open. We climbed aboard, strapping ourselves into the cockpit with Armstrong in the pilot's seat. "I'll be co-pilot," Bash said, pushing past me and climbing into the next seat next to Armstrong. "Ooh, has the small human flown a starship before?" Armstrong asked. "Not quite, but I've read enough sci-fi to know what I'm doing. Should we start the pre-space flight checks?" Bash said knowingly. "Checks?" Armstrong laughed. "There is no time for checks. Hit it!" And with that, our primate pilot slammed a lever forward, igniting the thrusters and launching our starship into the air. "Armstrong has missed flying! Yahoo!" Armstrong cheered as we sped through the airlock doors and into outer space. "I missed the flight case," Bash screamed as Armstrong spun the starship upside down and we all held on for dear life. "Full speed to Spectra," I shouted. "Affirmative, Captain," Armstrong said as we zoomed away from the space stadium and towards the looming black hole. Track 27, the mysterious object. We raced across the galaxy as fast as we could, with Armstrong guiding our ship through asteroid fields and wearing a toothy smile as big as a crescent moon. Could we really make it to this mysterious object, get these legendary musical powers, and return in time for the final? There was only one way to find out. Suddenly the cockpit started getting darker and darker and darker as we flew closer to the black hole that Spectra had left behind. But it wasn't just black, it was somehow darker than black. It was like looking directly at midnight with your eyes closed while wearing a blindfold. It was as if light had never existed at all. But on the very edge of that darkness was a tiny speck of light, shimmering like a little diamond that wanted to be found. "That's it," Neela said. "The mysterious object." "How can you be sure?" I asked. Without warning, the radar on board our starship started beeping. "Mysterious object detected," the starship's flight computer announced. "Told you," Neela said with a grin. Armstrong slammed down on the forward thrusters, and as we zoomed towards it, the little bright dot got bigger and bigger and bigger. "Mysterious object approaching," the flight computer announced. "It's an abandoned rocket," Bash whispered excitedly. "Maybe the mysterious object is on board," Neela wondered. "What in the galaxy could it be?" I added, staring at the battered old rocket ship that was now filling our starship's windscreen. "Armstrong knows exactly what is on board that rocket," our chimpanzee pilot said, his dark eyes fixed ahead, as if he'd seen a ghost. "How could you possibly know?" I asked. "Because that is not just any rocket. That is Armstrong's rocket," Armstrong said, and we all stared as huge red letters came into view on the side of the ship, spelling out its name, Minerva 7. I grabbed my book of rock and quickly flicked to the sketch I'd done in Mr. Lloyd's class just a few days ago, although now it felt like a distant dream. I held my doodle up to the windscreen, and it was identical. It was the Minerva 7, all right. "Armstrong will take us aboard," said our pilot. We held on tight as Armstrong steered our starship right up to the Minerva 7, and we docked beside the airlock. Armstrong hit a series of buttons and levers, and the airlock opened with a hiss of white gas, and the four of us floated aboard. It was silent and eerie inside the gigantic, abandoned spacecraft, and I suddenly felt as if I was a deep-sea diver exploring a shipwreck on the ocean floor. Neela, Bash and I drew a little closer together. "Follow Armstrong. Armstrong will take you to the mysterious object," Armstrong said. We followed our ape guide through the guts of his ancient ghost ship until he came to a sudden stop in the cargo bay. Dim lights flickered on as we entered this cavernous section of the ship. It was totally empty except for a strange black box floating in the centre of the room. "There it is," Armstrong whispered with wide, wondering eyes, pointing to the strange object. "There what is?" Bash asked. "The object containing the power of musical awesomeness," Armstrong said in awe. We floated over to the small box and Bash gave it an experimental poke. "What does it do? How do we get the powers out?" he said. "Wait a minute," I said. My mind was racing back to Mr. Lloyd's science lesson and what he told us about the Minerva 7. This isn't a mysterious object. It's a satellite that humans sent into space years ago. It just holds a bunch of songs from Earth. Yes, Armstrong beamed. Armstrong was supposed to deploy the satellite into deep space, but Megavolt beamed Armstrong up before Armstrong could launch it. "You mean this is just a music collection? There's no magical object that's going to give us musical superpowers," Bash said slowly. "It doesn't sound like it," Neela groaned. "But it is magical. It contains Earth's greatest music, sent out into the universe, in the hope that it would be discovered by intelligent life." Armstrong ran his fingers proudly along the box's smooth surface. Well, instead, it's been rediscovered by a bunch of kids who are about to get their planet destroyed, I said, giving the useless box a kick. In my frustration, I kicked it a little harder than I meant to. It went spinning across the cargo bay and slammed into the wall with a smash. The satellite cracked, and pieces of the pointless probe began to float around the rocket, like space junk. The four of us bobbed up and down in silence for a few minutes. Our quest to find awesome musical powers had failed. So that's it, Bash said quietly. And then I heard it. A faint, familiar voice echoing around the cargo bay. What is that? Neela asked. It's music. It's coming from the satellite, Bash whispered, pointing at what was left of the little black box. That's not just any music, I smiled. That's Mac's riff. Between battling aliens and trying to save the world, I had totally forgotten about the other part of the Minerva 7 story. The top secret song recorded for the mission. The lost Mac's riff and the Comet's song that no one else in the world had ever heard. Until now. Suddenly I understood what Megavolt had meant to beam up. Instead of Armstrong, the four of us floated in the cargo bay for the next 3 minutes without saying a word, just listening to the harmonics of the guitars, the deep vibrations of the drums, Mac's riff's melodies. They all worked together to create this one perfect song. The music filled the cargo bay, surrounding us, flowing through us like some magical energy force that united us all together. Even though we were floating in zero gravity, it felt as if it was the music lifting us higher, changing us. I guess this was that perspiration thing Mac's riff was talking about, because when the song stopped, I felt different. We all did. What just happened? Neela whispered, her hands shaking a little. I don't know, but I think we were meant to discover this. We were supposed to find that song. It was our destiny, I said. I feel amazing, unstoppable, breathed Bash. Armstrong feels it too. Armstrong feels like anything is possible. As we looked into each other's eyes, I wondered if maybe we had discovered the power of musical awesomeness after all. Maybe the power of musical awesomeness came from music itself. And if we had just listened to it, was it possible that the power was now inside us? Track 28, back to the space stadium. We raced back through the ghostly rocket to our stolen, borrowed starship, dragging the pieces of the small black satellite with us. We listened to the lost Mac's riff and the Comet song on repeat all the way back to the space stadium. Again, Bash yelled as soon as it ended. Again, Neela ordered. Again, Armstrong screeched. But the more we played this song, the more unstoppable we felt. It was as if the song was filling up my tank of awesomeness until it was overflowing, and I couldn't wait to get a guitar in my hands. Armstrong twisted the starship through the asteroid field as we flew back to the docking space in the launch bay. The stadium was busy now. Creatures had already started arriving for the final, and aliens from all over the galaxy were walking, crawling, and floating down the hallways. Hey, look! Isn't that them? A boggly-eyed creature screamed excitedly. It is, the Earthlings! Another cried. We're your biggest fans in the universe. Can we have your autograph? They both said as they scuttled over to us. Sure, I said, signing my name on their, I Love Earthlings t-shirt. Suddenly, more of our fans arrived, trying to get our autographs and photos. Can I touch your fur? One asked Armstrong as they stroked his head. Will you please sign my tentacles? Another said, holding out their sticky suckers. Before long, we were totally surrounded. We could hardly move. Guys, I think we're famous, Bash said. Yeah, what do we do now? Neela asked. Run, I yelled. The four of us dived through the crowd, leading our fans on a chase through the backstage corridors. They were hot on our heels, tugging on our clothes, pulling at Armstrong's fur. One of them even managed to grab Neela's lucky hat. No, she screamed, throwing her hands on top of her head. My hat, I need it. It's my lucky hat. Armstrong will get it, Armstrong said, and he leapt into the air, swinging from the ceiling, and plucked the hat out of the fan thief's hands with his awesome 8 feet. Security bots suddenly appeared and herded our new mega fans away. Artists only, the security bots droned, creating an uncrossable barrier that stopped the fans getting through. Armstrong swung back with the hat for Neela, and Neela quickly pulled it tightly over her hair. Thanks, Armstrong, she breathed. What was all that about? I said, as we tumbled into our dressing room. Don't you get it? We're through to the final of the biggest show in the universe. Everyone in the cosmos will be tuning in to see us take on Megavolt, to see if we have what it takes, Neela said. To see if we can win this battle, Bash added. Can the worst band in the world become the best band in the universe? I said. The door suddenly swished open behind us. Beep bop, it's showtime, beep bop bleeped. The walk felt longer this time, as if we were moving in slow motion. This wasn't like the other battles. This one felt bigger. It felt epic. Every battle we'd played so far had brought us here, but so had every bad practice, every broken string. It all came down to this moment. The alien crew lined the corridors and cheered us on, and as we approached the stage, the roadies stepped forward to hand us our guitars. It was time for our pre-show checks. We zipped up our flight suits and adjusted our glittery mission patches. I cleaned my glasses, Neela pulled her lucky hat on tighter, and Bash brushed Armstrong's hair into a cool mohawk. We were ready to rock. The cheering crowd sounded like waves crashing against the shore as we stood at the side of the stage and watched Quark Blisterbum step into the stadium. "Creatures of the universe, welcome to the final," he boomed, and the crowd went wild. "You've witnessed pink furry aliens fluff it, squidlians have their hopes squashed, and rusty robots crumble under the pressure." As Quark spoke, the back of the stage disappeared to reveal all the cages from Megavolt's House of Booze, stacked right up to the vast open stadium roof. Nebulas and swirling galaxies looked down at all the defeated bands trapped inside, forced to watch this final battle. Everyone was there, Dave and the Pincers, Dark Matter, even Anavoig and Mott, who were waving and giving us a thumbs up. "But tonight you shall witness the battle of all battles, as our finalists decided to gravity gamble and take on the unstoppable, unbeatable, totally unstable Megavolt," Quark screamed. The lights went out and the stadium was drenched in darkness. "Can you feel that?" Bash asked as the stage started to rumble and the crowd began chanting, "Megavolt, Megavolt, Megavolt!" Boom! A white-hot plasma fist burst through the centre of the stage, followed by another boom! Megavolt emerged from below, glowing with heat, power and fury, and taking on the intergalactic rock legend, "The Earthlings," Quark announced. We stepped out onto the stage, and I just knew we must look tiny compared to Megavolt. "Megavolt hungry." The Titan-like star drooled, smiling at us, as if he'd already won. "Bring in the rockometer," Megavolt demanded, and the huge device floated down. "All right, folks, this is it. Whoever gets the rockometer to hit out of this world first wins. Battling first for the survival of planet Earth, it's the Earthlings." I called everyone in for a last-minute band meeting at the drum kit. "Okay, this is our shot. It's all or nothing. Either we're all going home or none of us are," I said as we huddled together. "So, what song are we going to play?" Neela asked. "The greatest band in the universe?" suggested Bash. Ooh, or the one about Armstrong," Armstrong said. I thought about it for a moment, but none of those songs felt right. "No, let's play something brand new," I grinned. "Are you kidding? A new song in the final?" Bash choked. "Exactly. We can't just keep playing the same material. We need something new, something fresh, something unplanned." With that, I turned up the volume on my trusty Cosmo and started chugging a booming rhythm on the E string. Dum dum bump dum 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 bum 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 bum. "What are you doing? We don't even know what you're playing," Neela shrieked. "Neither do I said, as the crowd started to clap along to my thumping bass riff. "I'm improvising." "He's either gone totally bananas or he's a genius," Bash said, looking at the thousands of clapping aliens in the audience. "Did someone say bananas?" Armstrong chirped. "Remember how we felt when we were listening to that Lost Max riff song? The power of music is inside us. We've just got to feel it," I said to my band, and they all nodded. Armstrong pulled out a set of drumsticks and handed them to Bash, while Neela watched what notes my fingers were playing. "All right, I think I've got it," she said, as we turned to face our audience. This was it. This was our moment. I gave Bash the nod, and with Armstrong on his back, the two of them took a deep breath and counted us in. 1, 2, 3, 4, they shouted, and I started to sing. "Didn't believe in aliens until I saw some. Getting beamed up into space was pretty awesome. Let's rewrite history, forget all that you know. We're not just kids from Earth, so welcome to the show. We are the space band, rocking through the stars, light years across the universe, a million miles from Mars. We are the space band, touring the unknown. We don't need a star map, 'cause the music guides us. We couldn't play well, we were far from the best. We never gave up and passed every rock and roll test. So clear your minds, because we're coming into land. We are not alone, I finally understand. We are the space band, rocking through the stars, light years across the universe, a million miles from Mars. We are the space band, touring the unknown. We don't need a star map, 'cause the music guides us home. Did you ever wonder what it's like if we work together and save the world tonight? Let's rewrite history, forget all that you know. We're not just kids from Earth, so welcome to the show, welcome to the show. We are the space band, rocking through the stars, light years across the universe, a million miles from Mars. We are the space band, touring the unknown, and we'll be here forever, like galaxy defenders. We're the space band, and the music, yeah, the music guides us home. The audience began cheering, raising the level on the rockometer. For the first time ever, I felt my fingers going exactly where I wanted them to go on my bass, without having to look down. It was as if they had a mind of their own, being controlled by an invisible force. And it wasn't just my fingers. With 4 arms on the drums, Bash and Armstrong's double fills were rocking faster than ever, and Neela had found a way to make that dreaded school guitar absolutely sing. She wasn't hiding behind her fringe like usual either. She was swinging her head around, head banging like a guitar legend. We were actually rocking. We're the space band, rocking through the stars, light years across the universe, a million miles from Mars. We are the space band, touring the unknown. We don't need a star map because the music guides us home. There was a sudden gasp from the entire crowd that swooshed around the stadium like a shockwave, and all the fans started pointing at something. Then Bash and Armstrong's awesome drumming plodded to a stop as if they'd run out of batteries. "What are you doing?" I cried. "Keep playing!" But Bash's mouth was gawping open, and his eyes were nearly popping out of his head. I followed his gaze to find the reason everyone was behaving so weirdly. It was Neela. She was still rocking out, slaying a sick riff on the guitar, banging her head forward and back and having the time of her life. That was the problem. She must have headbanged so hard that she rocked her lucky hat right off her head, and it had revealed something unbelievable, something out of this world, something poking out of the top of her head. It was an antenna. Just one, exactly like the ones that Anna Voig and Mott had. And in that moment, everything fell into place. Neela was an alien. Track 29, Neela's Secret. "Stop, stop, stop!" Megavolt exploded in anger, causing solar flares to erupt from his mouth. Neela snapped out of her guitar solo and realised the whole stadium was watching her in silence. Then she spotted her lucky hat, lying on the stage. She turned to face me and Bash, and we just stared at her. "So, I guess my secret isn't a secret anymore," she said. You're an... Bash stuttered in disbelief. "An alien." Neela bowed her head. Even her little antenna seemed to droop. "How is that possible?" I asked. I guess the best sci-fi stories really do come in trilogies, because what Neela told us next made for the perfect final instalment of Rockstar Wars Volume 3. In a distant world and a distant time on the planet Tenelp, a young alien watched her mum and dad's band battle against the almighty Megavolt. The band were awful. Worse than awful, they sucked harder than a vacuum cleaner. "You're not going to make it," the young alien screamed at the TV. But before Megavolt could zap planet Tenalp and eat it, she climbed into an escape pod and blasted into space, just in time. She soared through space and crashed into a strange blue and green planet, where she used her superior intelligence to cleverly disguise her alien appearance. Ultimate disguise, a hat, and blend in with the creatures of her new home, planet Earth. But she made a promise to herself. "One day I'm going to join a band and defeat Megavolt, once and for all." A little while later, "Hey, want to be in a band?" "Okay," soon disguised as an Earthling. She was beamed across the universe to try to do what her parents couldn't, defeat Megavolt. Will she succeed? To be continued. "So that UFO I saw crash in the woods last year, you didn't find it, you were inside it," Bash said. Neela nodded. "And they're your parents?" I asked, nodding at Anna Voig and Mott. "Yep," Neela said. "That's Mum and Dad." Now I understood why Neela had never invited us home to meet her parents, why they had never shown up at the Christmas play or parents' evening. I also understood why Neela was so ridiculously out-of-this-world clever, why she liked broccoli, not chocolate, and why she had never once taken off her lucky hat. Neela had once let slip that her mum and dad were musicians, I remembered. She just never said that they were musicians from another planet. "But why didn't you tell us?" I asked. Neela sighed. "Because I just wanted to fit in, to belong. So we have an imposter among our finalists, an Earthling who isn't actually from Earth," Quark said. And there were mutters and whispers from the audience. "We all know what this means." There was a glimmer of excitement in his eyes. "Automatic disqualification," he boomed. Megavolt began licking his lips, salivating at the thought of devouring an early meal. "Megavolt hungry. Megavolt need more mass," he roared, and the crowd started chanting, "Eclipse! Eclipse! Eclipse!" "I'm so sorry," whispered Neela. "We had come so far and got so close, only to be disqualified. We were good enough to defeat Megavolt. I could feel it. It all just seemed so unfair." Bash and I put our arms around Neela and hugged her. It's not your fault, I told her. Let's take one last look at the planet they couldn't save. Planet Earth, here are your best bits, Quark said. On the screens around the stadium, the image of planet Earth swirling in the distance reappeared. Then close-up images of our planet began to appear. What a peculiar little planet, said Quark. Sitting on the edge of the Milky Way galaxy, home to billions of creatures of all sorts of weird shapes and sizes. As he spoke, the montage of images began to shift from busy, colourful city streets, to the snowy peaks of mountains, to impossibly tall skyscrapers, to giant redwood trees. The alien audience was pointing in amazement. These places must have seemed so strange to them. We glimpsed whales, octopuses and seahorses under our oceans, then wild horses galloping across an open beach. Next came chimpanzees swinging through treetops that brought tears to Armstrong's eyes. Then streets and houses, families, kids in a playground. Home. What a confused planet, Quark chuckled. Oceans, deserts, cities, and so many different creatures. It's like Earth couldn't make up its mind. Enough, Megavolt roared. He raised his burning fist, ready to smash it down on his big dramatic red button and sentence our planet to his delicious destruction. I suddenly thought about what Quark had said. Confused. Megavolt's fist came swooshing down. So many different creatures. Wait, I blurted out, just before Megavolt's fist hit the button. Everything paused. The stadium was silent. All eyes were on me, standing at the feet of the mighty Megavolt, who held the fate of our planet in his hands. You're right. Earth is a confused planet, I agreed. What are you doing? Neela hissed at me. Saving the world, I whispered back. I took a breath and faced the crowd. Earth has water and sand and mud and buildings and all sorts of weird creatures that live in all of them, I said. Being an Earthling isn't about looking a certain way or coming from a certain place. Just look at a goldfish and a giraffe, I said, pointing to the images of Earth creatures on the huge stadium screens. They couldn't be more different, but they're both Earthlings. You could have skin or scales, fur or feathers. You could even have antennae. On Earth, it doesn't matter. The crowd started whispering and murmuring to each other. That's all very well, but she wasn't even born on your planet. That means she can't be an Earthling. Disqualified, Quark snapped. You're right. She wasn't born on Earth, I said. But it's her home now. There was a little rumble of applause from the audience. But that doesn't make her an Earthling, Quark said, laughing nervously. Well, Megavolt made Neela an Earthling when he destroyed her planet, I said. But luckily for Neela, and for us, she crashed on the one planet where no one looks the same. A planet that doesn't just accept difference. We celebrate difference. That's why the sunshine and the rain don't cancel each other out. Together they make rainbows, I added, as a brilliant Earth rainbow was projected across the stadium. So, for as long as Neela wants to call Earth her home, she is an Earthling, and that's why she belongs in the band. The crowd started a new chant. Earthlings! 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 For the first time, Quark was lost for words. He looked at Megavolt, who was flaring with cosmic anger. Very well, Megavolt conceded, and the audience erupted with applause. We still had a shot. I don't believe it, folks. The show isn't over yet, Quark announced, as we huddled around Bash's drum kit for a quick band meeting. All except Neela. She was still standing centre stage, facing the towering laser beam cages holding the defeated bands, and of course her parents. If I can be an Earthling, then they can too, Neela said. What? Megavolt roared. You eclipsed all their planets, and soon you'll destroy them just like mine. So if Earth can be my new home, it can be theirs too, Neela said. And I suddenly realised she was right. I went and stood by her side. They might not look like us or talk like us, or smell like us, added Bash as a cloud of green trailed from the gassy giants. But where we're from, when someone's in trouble and needs a place to call home, we put differences aside, I explained. That's what it means to be an Earthling, said Bash. It doesn't matter what you look like, added Armstrong. Home isn't where you're from, I smiled. It's where you belong, Neela finished. Quark's mouth fell open in shock. The whole stadium seemed to be buzzing with excitement. The entire universe was watching this moment. As representatives of planet Earth, I officially invite all planetless aliens to become honorary Earthlings, I cried. There was silence as the universe seemed to hold its breath, waiting for Megavolt's response. So be it, he growled, glowing with anger from deep within his core. The laser beams deactivated, releasing all the bands from their cages. The pincers took up their instruments. Stargirl tuned up her awesome guitar and threw me her cosmic green star-shaped glasses with a wink. The Big Bangs swung their beaters, and Neela's mum and dad got into position as this collection of cosmic creatures took their places by our side, creating one huge ultimate supergroup from the furthest reaches of the universe. A space band. Megavolt's mouth curled into a hungry, evil snarl. "Let them battle," he roared. But a supergroup, this has never happened before," Quark stuttered, nervously. But Megavolt was too full of fiery fury now. "Let's rock," he boomed, swiping Quark Blisterbum off the stage. The furious creature reached out with his glowing arms, stretched his fiery fingers wide, and used the power of his gravitational pull to summon pieces of metal from the stage to his hands. He forged them together to assemble a mighty instrument of rock destruction, a guitar like I'd never seen before. Track 30. One Giant Leap. The rockometer powered back up and Megavolt wasted no time. Boom! There was a blinding explosion of golden stars on the stage when he ripped into a face-melting guitar solo. The strings were literally on fire as he tapped scales I'd never even heard before, and the enormous stadium speakers could barely handle the noise. The colossal creature thrashed around the stage, nailing knee slides that left a trail of burning embers behind him. The rockometer level instantly shot up from boo to brocktastic, and the stadium went wild. "So, fellow Earthlings," Dave said with a wink, "what song are we playing? And how are we all going to play together?" asked one of the Squid sisters. "Have you got the lyrics written out?" inquired Michael Bublé. "What are the chords, man?" Stargirl asked. "Oh no," I said, suddenly realising that I hadn't thought this through. "Without time for a rehearsal, how will anyone know what to play?" "Leave that to me," Neela said with a smile. She placed her hands on the side of her head, and her eyes and alien antenna began to glow a hypnotic green. "Your powers!" Bash cheered, as suddenly all our new bandmates' eyes started to glow the same colour, as though they were syncing up to Neela's signal. Neela raised her hand in the air, ready to rock a power chord, and all the guitarists followed in perfect unison. Bash and Armstrong rolled up the sleeves of their flight suits and counted us in at the exact same time as all the other drummers. 1, 2, 3, 4, they all cried, and our new supergroup burst into song, stealing the show from Megavolt. Spotlight swung over to us as I stepped up to the mic. "Hello, Space Stadium," I boomed, and the crowd replied with a mighty cheer. "We're all the way from planet Earth, and we're here to rock your alien socks off." The crowd screamed as I started to sing. "We might look strange, but it's called diverse. We've got superpowers, so we don't rehearse. Skip straight to the chorus, we don't need the verse. We're the greatest space band in the universe." Megavolt started glowing with fury, his hollow eyes smouldering from the anger deep within his core as the dial on the rockometer began rising, and rising, and rising. It shot straight past Rocktastic and hit Superstars. "No!" Megavolt roared. But it was too late. We were on a roll. A rock and roll. Neela waved her hand like a conductor, and Stargirl stepped up to take centre stage. She cranked up the volume, and as Neela's fingers moved on that dreaded school guitar, Stargirl copied her melody. Together they shredded those strings so fast that it put Megavolt to shame. Then Pixel Shift rearranged their pixels to create 3 more identical Stargirls, and together they played in awesome guitar harmony. The big bangs followed Bash and Armstrong's beat, booming the stage with such force that it seemed to shake the whole stadium. The furry Wurzlets and the pincers swapped instruments, creating new experimental sounds. Michael Bublé combined with Slime Blob and Gloop to form the ultimate backing singers, as Neela projected the words directly into their minds. "We are the greatest space band in the universe." We all sang together as UFO hovered their flying saucer over our heads, creating a laser show in time to the show. 8 tracks scratched some rusty beats, while the Buxy brothers used the short sugar-fueled speed to spin Mini Jack, the breakdancing bot, on his head. As we all worked together, the rockometer went soaring up the rock scale, stopping just under Out of This World. We'd almost won. "I don't believe it," cried Quark Blisterbum. "The Earthlings are in the lead." "No, I am a star. Nobody outshines me," Megavolt roared, creating a solar flare that sent a shockwave over the stage and across the stadium. The whole place rattled and shook as pieces of the stage started breaking apart, and the crowd dived for cover. Spotlights came loose and shot through the air towards Megavolt. He caught them in his burning jaws and swallowed them, getting bigger and brighter with each mouthful and glowing a brilliant red. "What's happening to him?" I shouted. "He's getting bigger," Neela cried. "Yeah, he's becoming a red supergiant," Bash explained. "This is fascinating." "This is no time for a science lesson, Bash. Just tell us what to do," I shouted, as more and more chunks of stage and scenery flew into Megavolt's expanding mouth. "I will be the biggest star in the universe!" Megavolt boomed as he smashed his own burning guitar in rock rampage and swallowed it whole, sending the rockometer into overdrive. Suddenly, Megavolt swelled to such an enormous size that he cracked through the side of the space stadium, revealing the looming darkness of the black hole outside. "Spectra! That's it," said Bash, as his drumsticks were pulled out of his hand by Megavolt's increasing gravity and flew into his mouth. Do you remember what happens to stars when they get too big? For the first time ever, I did actually remember one of his nerdy space facts. They go supernova, I yelled. Right, they explode. He smiled like a proud teacher. So to defeat Megavolt, we need to make him a bigger star? Suddenly, the force of his gravity started pulling everyone towards him. All the members of our new supergroup grabbed hold of anything they could do to stop themselves from being sucked in. Megavolt was out of control, and it wouldn't take much more to send him over the edge, to make him go supernova. But the dial on the rockometer was going crazy for Megavolt's rock meltdown, and his reading drew level with ours. The red button that was primed and ready to eclipse Earth started glowing. You see, it's all over for you puny Earthlings. Megavolt bellowed. Your pathetic planet was always mine. He looked down at the flashing red button and raised his flaming fist, ready to destroy our home. This was it. It was now or never. I had to do something so undeniably rock that it would end this battle once and for all. You will never outshine me, Megavolt boomed. That's it, I yelled. I realised that I needed to do the one thing I said I'd never do, the most rock and roll thing in the universe. I took off my cosmic green Fender P bass, my Cosmo. I held the long neck in my hands. Thank you for everything, I whispered. Then I turned to Neela. Neela, I need a lift, I shouted, and I ran towards Megavolt and took one giant leap into the air. Neela placed her hands on the side of her head, and I felt her power lift me towards the unstable star. Higher and higher over the stadium I soared, defying all the laws of physics, as I swung my bass guitar over my head like an axe, just like Max Riff did at the end of his concert. Hey, Megavolt, eat this, I cried, and he turned his glowing face just in time to see me perform the ultimate rock finishing move and smash my guitar into his blazing mouth. The moment it touched the surface of his flaming face, our reading on the rockometer rocketed beyond out of this world and off the charts. There was an explosion of galactic proportions, and a blinding pulse of energy suddenly blasted across the stadium. And when the stardust settled, there was silence. Megavolt was gone. Track 31, Home. The stadium was messier than my bedroom on Christmas morning. There were bits of instruments everywhere, tangles of guitar strings poked out from under blown amps, cracked cymbals and broken drum skins. It was like a rock graveyard. Is everyone okay? I called. I think so, croaked Bash, climbing out of the debris. Yeah, I'm still in one piece, said Neela, straightening her antenna. Armstrong here too, said Armstrong, swinging down from above as the faces of our new space bandmates emerged from under the rock rubble. We dusted ourselves off and stood in what was left of the space stadium. Look, Bash yelled, pointing up above where there was not one but two black holes, swirling darkly side by side. Neela smiled. I guess he couldn't handle the stardom. Quark Blisterbum clambered out from underneath the wrecked rockometer. Well, folks, it looks like we have a new champion. The winners of the intergalactic battle of the bands, the Earthlings. Quark coughed before fainting in shock. The audience, who were still climbing out from under their seats, went wild. Shooting stars started swirling across the galaxy in celebration, and everyone began chanting, Earthlings, Earthlings, Earthlings. I guess we're not the worst band in the world anymore, Bash laughed. I smiled. No, we're the best band in the universe. What do we do now? Asked Neela, looking around. Where do we go? Home, I replied. We all go home. Look. Suddenly, all the holograms of the eclipsed planets around the stadium came back to life. The purple, probably P, oceans of the Squid Sisters' planet, the rusty red desert surface of 8 tracks, and Minnie Jack's home, the furry Wurslet's giant sphere of pink fluff, all of them alive and beaming with colour and life. Dave smiled at us. They've been uneclipsed. You did it. No, we did it, I replied. Suddenly the blue rings of fizzing energy started to appear all around us, just as they had appeared on that day we were beamed up from Earth. This is it. We're going home, Bash cheered. George, do you think my family will be welcome on Earth too? Neela said nervously. Are you kidding? Your family just helped save the world. I can't wait to show it to them. I grinned as the beams of blue circled Anavoy, Mott and their 2 band members too. Will we ever see you all again? I said to our new alien friends. Everyone fell silent as they realised this was goodbye. I'm not sure, but next time you're looking up at the stars, you'll know that the sky is full of friends twinkling back at you, said Dave. More than friends, bandmates, I whooped, raising my fist in the air, throwing them all the rock sign. Rock on, Earthlings, Dave said, raising his claw, followed by the members of Ozone, then Dark Matter, Stargirl and everyone else until there was a crowd of rock fists in the air. Rock on, we replied joyfully as the blue energy engulfed us all. Hold on tight, Armstrong, Bash said. Armstrong going home. Armstrong cheered as he excitedly zipped himself inside Bash's backpack. There was a sudden fizz of electricity as our feet started levitating over the stage, and I grabbed my book of rock and made sure it was safely tucked inside my pocket. After one final wild roar from the crowd, we were all beamed up and out of the space stadium, whizzing our separate ways across the universe. We blasted away from the black hole that was now Megavolt, soared across star systems, glided over galaxies, crossed clusters of comets, until we were flying back through the Milky Way. Our blue beams of pure, sparkling starlight energy steered well clear of Uranus, sailing around Saturn, and zoomed straight towards a tiny bluey-green dot in the distance. "That's it," I cried. "Home," bellowed Armstrong. A few moments later, we were entering Earth's atmosphere, falling through fluffy clouds and heading straight for a familiar-looking square building below. I smiled. Never thought I'd say this, but I can't wait to get back to school. "Me too," said Neela. "Me 3, laughed Bash. "Armstrong 4, added Armstrong. In a flash of blazing blue, we beamed back through the roof of the school hall, where everyone was still frozen as they were on pause. As our feet touched down on the stage, the blue energy started to fizzle out, and the world around us began to come to life, as if it was defrosting. "It's like we never left," gasped Bash. "Which means there's one battle left," Neela said, pointing at Alfie Biffson and his band glaring at us. "The Boneheads," we said together. "Armstrong, ready," Armstrong said, pulling out a set of drumsticks, ready to play. "Yeah, except I don't have a guitar," I sighed, looking at my empty hands. Suddenly there was a flicker of energy, like tiny atoms of stardust catching the light. Particles of cosmic green started to reassemble in my hands. By the time the world had unfrozen, I had my Fender P bass back, ready to rock. "But I thought this was destroyed," I said, running my fingers over the sparkling body. "Don't you remember the rules?" Bash smiled. "The winners are returned to their home planet, to the moment they left, just like it never happened," I grinned. There was an abrupt gasp from the crowd of shocked students and concerned parents as reality kicked back in, and they stared at the chimpanzee dressed as an astronaut that had suddenly joined us on the school stage. "Wow, those are some pretty wild costumes. I didn't realise it was a fancy dress competition," Mr. Biffson sneered. "These aren't fancy dress costumes. We're rock stars, and these are our stage outfits," I said, zipping up my flight suit. "I made those. That's my boy," my mum shouted proudly from the back of the hall. "Oh, you must be George's mum and dad. We're Neela's parents," Anna Voig said as he and Mott edged their way through the busy crowd. "Lovely to meet you finally. Here, I've made you T-shirts," Mum trilled, shoving her homemade world's most embarrassing T-shirts over Anna Voig and Mott's heads. "Well, rock stars, show us what you can do," Mr. Biffson said, holding his clipboard in his arms and raising one eyebrow. "Bash, hit it," I said, and Bash counted us in. 1, 2, 3, 4. He screamed, and with the power of musical awesomeness inside us, we rocked that school like it had never been rocked before. The crowd went wild. Even the teachers were screaming for us, and Neela ripped into a rocking guitar solo on the dreaded school guitar. I saw Alfie Biffson's mouth drop open like his face had been melted by rock awesomeness. Those 3 minutes were the best 3 minutes of my life. We didn't care about winning, we weren't thinking about the prize, and we didn't need to save the world anymore. We were just a band, rocking out, making people happy for 3 minutes, because that's what music is all about. As we finished the song, the rockometer level soared up to the maximum score. Out of this world, making us joint first place on the leaderboard with the Boneheads. "It's a tie," announced Mr. Biffson. "Are you kidding? We just defeated the biggest rock star in the universe and we can't even beat the Boneheads," Neela huffed. "As the rules clearly state, in the event of a tie, the winner shall be decided by the head judge, me," he grinned. "So I can now reveal that the winner of the Battle of the Bands is the Boneheads." "Ha! You suck, Earthlings," Alfie yelled as he ran on the stage to claim his prize. "Congratulations. You have won front row tickets to the sold-out Max Riff and the Comets concert," Mr. Biffson cheered as he handed the tickets over to Alfie. As the Boneheads celebrated their victory, we stood at the back of the stage feeling as deflated as a balloon the day after a birthday party. Sure, we had saved the world, but seeing Max Riff and the Comets play would have been the icing on the cake, and now that cake was going to be eaten by Alfie stinking Biffson. Or was it? "Hold it," called a wise, raspy voice from the shadows at the back of the school hall. There was a sudden gasp from the parents, squeals of excitement from the teachers, and confused whispers from the students as a mysterious figure stepped forward. I knew who it was in a heartbeat. There was only one person in the world who had hair as wild as a lion, a leather jacket flung over his shoulder, arms covered in tattoos, and enormous dark sunglasses, even though he was indoors. "Max Riff," I whispered as the audience parted and the legend himself made his way to the stage. "I know." I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Was this real? Was this a dream? Was the Max Riff actually here in my school? If I hadn't just been beamed back from outer space, I would have said this was totally impossible. But just to be safe, I dropped to my knees and bowed my head as if I was meeting the Queen of England. This was rock royalty after all. Mr. Riff, well, what are you doing here at Greyville School? Mr. Biffson stammered nervously. Me and the dudes were on our way to rehearse for the concert on Saturday night when I heard the sweet sound of rock blasting from this very hall, dude, Max explained, his voice commanding silence like a magic spell. So we stopped the comet bus to watch the gig and witnessed a rock miracle, dude. A band that was so out of this world awesome that me and the dudes wanted to ask those dudes to be special guests and play at our concert on Saturday night, dude. Yes. Ha-ha, in your face, Earthlings, Alfie gloated. Did you hear that? We're going to be playing at the Max Riff show. We won't be needing these anymore. And he ripped up his concert tickets into tiny pieces in front of my face. No, dude, not you, Max Riff said. I'm talking about those dudes, the Earthlings. I looked up and saw Max Riff pointing right at me. You dudes rock so hard. We'd love the Earthlings to be our opening support act. What do you say? We could barely speak. But as Max Riff himself put his hand up to high-five me, I managed to nod my head. You know, little dudes, he said, if you keep rocking like you just did, one day you might be the greatest band in the universe. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that we already were. The end. And that is the end of Spacebound by Tom Fletcher. Really hope you enjoyed that story, guys. I'll be back soon with lots more stories and videos on my channel. If you'd like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.